think, in a way, everybody shares in the accountability. I do think if you look at some of the things that went wrong, whether it's on the audit side or CFOs or audit committees, and it happened all over, I think in a way we're all accountable because we all have a duty to do the right thing, and we all have a duty to be ethical, and we all have a duty to be competent. I do think there's a stronger responsibility on, for example, a member body such as SAICA to also take action, because collectively you can do things as an organization like that, and regulators, because they've got the muscle, you know, financial muscle, the power to instill rules and so on. And I think it is important to know and work through the debate, but it's very important to, you know, we can point fingers, but we also have to look inward and say, okay, but what do we do about this now? Let's recognize and be honest about it, but let's do something.
Right, and also talking about doing something, the regulatory environment, that's something that's also very contentious. And the conversations that are happening here tonight, how do we action them? Because I assume that a lot of ideas are coming up in terms of how we can change the space to really reinvigorate it in South Africa.
I believe it's necessary to get together and to get input. I do think, though, that you have to pick your battles, because you can do so many, get involved in so many things. What are the big ticket items? And I sort of tried when I spoke to talk about what I see the big ticket items are in SAICA as an organization and as a member body. I think so. Similarly, other bodies must have the same conversation, whether they're regulators or whoever. I do think you have to start with that, and then it's like, you know, it's like eating an elephant. You do it one bite at a time. So choose the big ticket items, work on that, and keep on rethinking, okay, what's next, and check with stakeholders, check whether the public perception is changing about accountants, because you might do all these wonderful things, but it's not having the appropriate impact. I think there's very courageous leadership necessary at SAICA to drive that, and they must get the right people to assist them, and there are people that want to make it.
Right. Now, one question I know that you've probably received a couple of times is that of Steinhoff. And when the story initially came out, there were calls for the suspension of shares and so, and it really brought up a lot of questions about you know, the regulatory systems at the JSE. And I just want to get a sense from you in terms of those systems, and really if there's been a move to maybe alter those based on what we've seen in recent times.
So my comment will be my perspective, you know, and from what I see from the outside. The JSE, in my view, has always been a very strong regulator. It's a difficult regulation to do, because if you make it too hard for listed companies, they go and list elsewhere, and we do need them. And so it's a lighter-handed approach in a way. But having said that, if I look at the financial reporting investigation panel work where I'm involved in, the JSE does take action when it's important, because the overarching message is to protect the market, to protect the investors, make sure that investors have appropriate information. So I know a couple of people asked me at the time what was my view on whether the JSE should suspend the listing. I think they took the right decision, because the information, the same level of information was available to everybody that traded. And that's what you try to avoid, is that some people have information and therefore they in a privileged position to buy or sell shares. But at that stage, everybody knew, they made sure that everybody knew as much as they knew. And as soon as you suspend a listing, it means that people that hold shares that want to get out of it, even at that low price, can't. It's happened to me way back with shares that I had elsewhere, and the listing was suspended, and now you're stuck. You can do nothing with it. So if you really need that money, you can't sell the shares. You can choose to hold on to it because you think the price is too low, but if you want to sell it, you can. So you almost take the freedom away from investors. So that's why I thought it was the right decision. But being very vigilant to make sure that everybody's got the information that they need.
Right. During your panel discussion, you spoke about the fact that in corporate South Africa, there are some elements, that believe they're above corporate governance. Why is that, and how do we change that?
I think executives and non-executive directors, CEOs and chairmen alike, we can get very arrogant if we're successful. If companies make a lot of money, we don't ask so many questions. We allow them to make money for us. And therefore, I think investors are also not always responsible when it comes to that. So you sort of led to do or allowed to do what you have to because you're successful. And the success then becomes power. And I think as soon as people start making comments, and there were comments over the years about governance and this is nonsense, that for me is always a red flag, because it means you somehow think the rules, you're above the rules and you know better. And I think that's a sign of arrogance in a way, sometimes a sign of greed.
Right. Now, the current crisis, just a final question, the current crisis was also mentioned to be a make or break situation for the accounting and auditing industry in South Africa. Your thoughts?
I do think it's make or break. I think it's really important in any economy to have accountants, auditors, people that can fill finance positions that are well skilled. So they must have the competence and the ethics. So it's very unfortunate. We don't have enough of those in South Africa. So it is unfortunate that we are where we are, and that's why decisive action is really necessary. I do think it can be turned around, but we can't turn it around if we still debate whether we think there's an issue or not, and if we don't agree on what at least some of the immediate steps are. Because it's going to take a long time anyway to rebuild trust. And in a developing economy, we need foreign investment, and foreign investment is fueled by confidence, market confidence and trust. And we've lost a lot of that. But we have to do, as I said when I spoke, lots of little things right, and we have to keep on doing them right. And over time, we can build trust again. But we can't be impatient and we can't give up, because it's going to take a long time.